Hello there everyone, this is Seb and this is the 7th guest for CDI. And this is the 7th guest for CDI. But they're different. How are they different and does that even matter at all? Well, depending on your equipment, it can matter quite a lot. So any CDI collector out there, you might want to take notice. But what do I mean exactly? Well, let me just show you what happens when we load up this one. Alright, so let's feed this one to my CDI 450 and load it up. Seems to be booting up just fine. The little movie scenes are playing nicely, everything looks smooth. And we can move about, so let's head over to the dining room and start our first puzzle there, the cake puzzle. And nothing. Apparently the game has crashed. Alright, so now let's see what happens if I pop in the other one. Everything seems to be loading just the same and all the movies are playing. So let's go into the dining room, click on the puzzle.
Become a grave digger now, have we? You are a glutton for punishment.
And it actually loads as intended. Wow, what happened? Now you might be saying, Seb, you silly goose, just clean the disk. But I assure you that there is no dirty disk in play here. In fact, the CDI systems in general were very adamant in telling you about a dirty disk whenever they ran into any read errors. Actually locking up like this is really rare on the CDI system. No, something else is at play here, and that is the infamous lockup of the 7th guest on CDI. And this was so much a problem that Philips did actually release a updated version. You gotta understand, back in the 90s we did not have updates for our console games yet, so you either had to live with the bugs that there were in there and ignore them, or in this case, when it was so game breaking, you had to take in your copy and just trade it in for a new version. But of course, now the question remains, how do you tell them apart exactly? How are you sure which version you actually have? If we look at the catalog numbers on the spine, you'll notice that they are exactly the same, in this case indicating the Dutch version. The updated edition does come in a video CD case as opposed to a CDI case, however do keep in mind that these are easily swapped out, so it's a not overly reliable way of keeping them apart. So let's have a look at the discs themselves. Aha, we found a different catalog number here. Now we're talking, and it's the same on the other disc. Now what's up? Well, this is the 7th guest for CDI and it's different. This is the UK edition, and the numbers match with this one. The Dutch version uses the exact same disc actually. The only thing that's added there is a translated manual. The disc from the UK also possesses the bug unfortunately, but how can we tell? Well, in order to do that we actually need to look at the inner ring of the disc. Now you'll find a long string of different information there, but the one thing we are interested in is finding the V and the number behind it, which basically indicates the revision number of the software. Now a thing to remember is magic number 20. Anything that is below 20 behind that V means it's the older version with the bug. So as long as your disk says it's V20 and up, it will no longer get stuck on the puzzle start, no matter what system you play it on. But how was this game-breaking bug even missed in the first place, I hear you ask? Surely if the game just crashes all the time, no one would be able to play it, right? Well, the thing is that people would not encounter this when they first got the game. Most of them actually never knew it even existed. It's not actually much to do with the game, but more with new hardware that came out that was not compatible with the 7th guest in particular. A long-standing theory was that it actually was caused by newer CDI players, like for example the popular 450. However, I also ran into this issue on my 210, so that never really seemed too logical to me, and turns out that nope, that's not the issue at all. You see, the 7th guest needs one of these, a digital video cartridge. Now, I also happen to have one of these, a digital video cartridge, but they're different. If we look at the product label, we can find the model number and also those revision numbers that Philips tended to use from all their products. So what happens now if I replace my card with an older revision of this card? We head into the dining room again, we start the puzzle up, and remember, it used to get stuck here, but now it works fine. Problem solved. In their final revision to the DVC, Philips decided to integrate the audio and video into a single IC, and apparently this is what's actually causing the issue on the 7th Guest. And potentially also some other titles, though I've never personally run into any lockups like this. But you know, it's always good to keep in mind that something like this could be at play there. And this also explains why this was never noticed before, because well, it just wasn't an issue. Any DVC before this time had no problem at all. And how do you know which version you have? Well, it's again the revision number on the model number. Behind the slash there is a number, and if that is below 40, you have an older edition. If it's 40, it's the newest version, and you might run into this issue at least on the 7th Guest, but otherwise all these DVCs are practically the same. And yes, for those wondering, and just for completion's sake, if you happen to have one of these, the earlier cartridges, which were slightly bigger, to say the least. But yeah, if you have one of those, you'll be just fine, because by the time that new revision came around, these older cards were long phased out, so there's no cards with this issue in that segment. However, do keep in mind that some newer CDI systems in particular had integrated DVCs, and those might run into that issue. I'm not exactly sure which ones, I don't have many to test those out, but yeah, something to keep in mind if you happen to have one. Then again, if you have one of those fancy systems, then you're probably way too busy running from loan sharks and actually worry about not being able to play this one particular game. For this video, I'd like to give out a very big shout out to the website retrostuff.org. The person behind that does an amazing job in diving into the technicals and improving our consoles, and you know, laying out how you can do that yourself as well. There's a lot of different articles on different consoles and different modifications for those consoles. And if something is wrong, then he does explain how, you know, what's actually going on and how to fix it. So it's an amazing resource, and it's actually through his website that I actually finally saw this little mystery resolved for myself. And I can't thank him enough for that. It's really cool, and I wish I had known how this little issue worked exactly before, because man, let me tell you, I have wasted a lot of cleaning fluids on this stupid game. But there is one more mystery that I am kinda interested in solving when it comes to the 7th Guest on CDI, because you see, this is the 7th Guest on CDI, and it's different, and I'm not actually sure why, but for some reason this disc is blue. What the heck? Did at some point the CDI batch of discs get a misprint or something? I am not sure. If anyone has any clue what happened here, let me know. Well, I hope you liked this little excursion into this rather obscure topic. And as always, I'd like to thank you very much for watching and sticking with me to the end here. And you will see me next time in another video. Until then, take care. Bye bye for now. The muzzle.